Nurse.org and Major League Sports teams are honoring nurses with discounted game tickets and once-in-a-lifetime experiences. From throwing the first pitch to riding the Zamboni to on-court recognition, join the fun. Visit nurse.org/nurse night to find a nurse appreciation event near you and grab your discounted tickets today. You're listening to Nurse Converse, presented by Nurse.org, a collaborative podcast amplifying diverse nurse voices. Get ready for a dose of inspiration, a sprinkle of education, and a whole lot of community.
Hi, friend, and welcome back to Nurse Converse. My name is Mel, a former pediatric nurse turned two-time Best of Nursing Award winner, and today's episode is a really special one. Here at Nurse Converse, we talk a lot about the realities of nursing, the challenges, the burnouts, but today we are celebrating ways that nurses show up for their communities, especially in times of need. I am joined by two incredible nurse leaders. We have Courtney, the founder of Rekindled Nurse, and Tara, the founder of Debriefing the Frontlines. Both are nurse-led nonprofit organizations that support nurses in different but deeply connected ways. Together, Courtney and Tara organized a relief outreach trip to Asheville, North Carolina in November of 2025. And I had the honor of volunteering on this trip alongside 12 other nurses from across the country. And what we experienced there was something that I will carry with me for a very long time. And today's conversation is about how the trip came to be, what it looked like on the ground, and why nurses are such a powerful force of healing, not just in the hospitals, but in communities everywhere. So Courtney, Tara, thank you so much for being here.
Yay! Thank you for having us. Thank you, Mel, for having us and for being an integral part of the outreach trip.
Oh, I love that. Well, before we dive into the trip itself, I really want our listeners to understand the heart behind each of you and the work that you're doing. And Courtney, I wanted to start with you. Can you share a little bit more about your nursing background and what led you to founding Rekindled Nurse?
Yes. Oh, well, thank you so much. This is such a blessing to be here and just to chat with you all, and just having this safe space is really, really special. So my name is Courtney. I am based out of Lancaster, Pennsylvania. I have been a nurse since 2018, and I started out as a neuro nurse. So my heart is still there. I'm a retired neuro nurse now. I work in endoscopy in our outpatient facility here in Lancaster, and I have been blessed with the opportunity to have founded Rekindled Nurse back in 2021. So I founded it. It was actually interesting because I feel like it's important to say that I went through burnout prior to COVID, which I feel like pre-COVID times, then like burnout wasn't talked about really as nurses. And we're the grin and bear it generation, I feel like, and just, you truck on through and you see that as a new nurse and you just expect that that's normal. And nothing's really talked about beyond that. And then I experienced this just loathing for nursing that I was really upset that I had never thought that I would have, because I love this profession so much. I worked so hard to get into it. And then as I started just kind of going through a journey, therapy, just going through a lot of just that self-help, self-discovery, more of that well-becoming, my eyes were really opened that the profession is really hurting and people just aren't showing it. And there isn't really anything for nurses and for that support for nurses, especially our local ones. And so I saw a need, I saw a gap. And as I started talking to my other coworkers, we just started breaking down some barriers and understanding that, wow, like a lot of us are actually struggling, but no one knows what to do and no one knows where to go. So I wanted to create something that is all about community and it's all about support and just encouraging other nurses that they're not alone. And so then Rekindled Nurse was born, which is actually pretty crazy because then COVID happened. We all know what happened during COVID. So when I started Rekindled Nurse, it was 2021. And we just started out with events. And then we just got deeper and deeper into just supporting one another.
I love that. I love that. And for somebody who's hearing about Rekindled Nurse for the first time, how do you support nurses through your organization?
Oh my goodness. I love this question. Our heart for our mission at Rekindled Nurse is that we don't want nurses to feel alone. We want them to feel supported, empowered, and encouraged. So we do that through so many different ways. One of our biggest things is we are a big in-person, like we want that rubbing shoulders together, having those conversations, especially coming out of such a yes, yeah. Like coming out of such a digital age too, like with Zoom and everything. When we started Rekindle Nurse, it was like getting back together with people was like so deeply desired. And then we found out that it was so needed. So we do a big event every year. We do our Rekindle Nurse conference, bringing together 200 nurses from across the country, locally and cross state lines. We also locally, we do peer groups. We have about 10 right now that we meet, and these are committed, deeper connection ones, peer groups that have just bringing together nurses of all generations, just to be with one another and encouraging each other. We get CEs from Debriefing the Front Lines, which is a huge blessing. We also do monthly workshops. And then something that is very near and dear to my heart is we call them unit drops, which we'll get into a little bit more later because that's also what we did with our outreach. But we are just so passionate about meeting nurses where they are, because not everyone can come to an event. Not everyone can come or commit to a peer group. So we want to show up where they are, and that's in the hospital walls. And so we form relationships with nurses in our area, and we deliver gifts. We have people sponsoring units to deliver meals, and just, again, just letting them know like, hey, I see you. You're so desired and you're so cared for. And just those simple little gestures mean so much.
Oh, I could not agree more. I mean, a lot of what's in my business is it's the little things are the big things, and
Yes.
it doesn't take a lot to turn someone's day around. And
Absolutely.
something that I really loved about everything that you were saying was like that concept of that you are not alone. And as Tara knows, alone is no longer enough.
Yes.
So that's a great segue. Courtney, thank you so much for sharing. That was beautiful. But Tara, I would love to hear your story as well. Can you share your journey as a nurse and how Debriefing the Frontlines came to life?
Absolutely, Mel, and thank you, Courtney, for sharing yours. You know, I am Rekindle Nurse #1 fan. So I appreciate you. Yeah, absolutely. My story is unique in that I am a 33% pediatric burn survivor. And life as a burn survivor, it really shaped my experience and led me to the nursing profession. And when I was 20 years old, I began my career in the burn unit. I had that shiny new name badge, and it was everything I ever dreamed of. It was the reason I went to nursing school. However, despite my lived experience as a burn survivor, I was just grossly underprepared for what I would witness. And the trauma, I didn't really realize it at the time, but it was cumulative in nature. And there was so much occupational trauma that I was experiencing as well as my colleagues. And I never wanted anyone else to feel this way. So over the next 20 years, this really shaped the trajectory and guided me in like every decision that I made moving forward, from what I studied. And again, I just devoted so many years to learning about peer support and debriefing and trauma-informed care and all of these things for myself to feel better and so that I could share it with other people. And that kind of led me into academia, preparing nurses for the future. I love simulation, and in March of 2020, when the pandemic began, I was working as an assistant professor at Towson University, and I began to receive a lot of calls, a lot of reach outs from former students, as well as like my veteran ICU colleagues. And, you know, we were that generation where we weren't really saying when we were nervous and scared. And it was really the first time in my career that nurses were fearful for themselves, their patients, their families, and the community at large. And I'm like, okay, what gifts, what skills, what medicine do I have to bring to the nursing profession? And that was my knowledge of debriefing. So I put out kind of a pretty casual social media call in what I thought would be a 3-week, right? A 3-week community project, right? And, one by one, we began debriefing the front lines. And since we haven't stopped, we are almost 6 years in, 5,000 one-on-one sessions. We provide debriefing support to individual nurses as well as hospital systems. We began partnering with hospital systems in July of 2022, and that really helped us grow and for people to begin talking about debriefing as a communication tool, as an intervention to address trauma.
I love that. It's so good. Courtney, you said it right out of my mouth. And Tara, I'm curious, just based off of your lived experience and expertise, why do you think that emotional processing and debriefing is so important for nurses, especially after a crisis or after trauma?
Mm-hmm. I think, this is multifaceted, and for the sake of time, I will try to keep it quick because I can really get on a soapbox about this.
Right. But I think it's really important for our listeners to know who has never heard debriefing before or heard this term.
So without this designated space, even if it's short, to acknowledge, discuss, process, recover an internal sense of safety, nurses, healthcare workers in general, we suffer. We suffer emotionally, physically, spiritually, and debriefing is a communication tool. And as I mentioned, an intervention to address trauma, to discharge energy. Nursing is an exchange of energy, and what is given out must be replenished. And even if it is a short debriefing for 10 minutes post-critical event, to normalize the use of resources. Debriefing is not the end-all be-all, but it helps us. Were there any safety concerns? Not what did we do right, what did we do wrong? Were there safety concerns for us and for our patient? And how can we foster our own well-being as well? And sometimes, again, this is simply just normalizing the use of support.
Well, and in that support, that kind of goes right into the outreach trip. And we got somebody from Pennsylvania. We have another one from Florida. I'm from Wisconsin. And somehow we were able to get 12 nurses from all over the country together to support the community of Asheville, North Carolina. And one of the things that really stood out to me about this trip is how intentional it felt. And from the very beginning, even, outreaching to get volunteers to come and help. And I remember before we even arrived, feeling how much care and thought had gone into making sure that this trip honored both the community, but also the nurses that were volunteering. Because like you said, nursing, we have to replenish. And that was something that I really felt that was very powerful. And I saw it in the community. I saw it at the house every night when we were doing our debriefings. So I'm curious, how did this idea for the Asheville relief outreach trip first come up for you guys?
I'll let you start, Tara. I always chuckle.
Okay.
I'm the impulsive friend. I'm just like, we're doing it. We're going. So that was where, that was how all that started. So I'll let Tara share.
I live in Punta Gorda, Florida, Southwest Florida area. And in November of 2024, Hurricane Milton came through our area, followed by 2 weeks later, Hurricane Helene.
Yeah.
This was at a time when we were also recovering from Hurricane Ian. So we had 3 incredibly powerful storms within 2 years.
Yeah.
And Courtney was checking in on me. I was actually documenting it on social media, sharing.
Yeah.
So Courtney reached out the day after. It was less than 24 hours. And she was like, hey, I'm thinking about coming down for an outreach, community service. We'll help. We'll do anything. We'll clean up. So this kind of this did absolutely, this response, this need to respond, which is such a beautiful thing. That's how Rekindled Frontlines was born, from Courtney's willingness to serve my personal community here in Southwest Florida.
Thank God for Courtney.
Yeah.
No, but it was so beautiful to see, because I remember And the turnaround time for that trip was a lot quicker than this Asheville one.
Oh, yeah.
And I remember you guys pouring out to social media saying, well, and obviously it was nationwide news for these two hurricanes that demolished cities and houses in Florida. And yes, following your journey through that time, it was really powerful. And it felt, at least for me, like I felt moved to help and in some way, shape, or form. And even though I didn't have the opportunity to go down there, I was able to give back and donate. And it's just so beautiful to see that, Courtney, you saw that a community was in need and you dropped everything and went down to serve. And I think that is just so beautiful, and we need more of it. And we got more of it with Asheville. And that totally ties in because, Tara, I'll let you explain, but we know that Asheville, North Carolina got hit with hurricane damage. And that was a main reason why we went to Asheville. But what were other needs that you were seeing in that community that made this outreach so necessary?
Hey nurses, looking for exclusive discounts? Nurse.org has you covered with deals on everything. Save big on the essentials you need to excel in your career. Don't miss out. Visit nurse.org/discounts for the latest discounts made just for you.
One of the main things that happens in disaster, be it natural or even medical traumas, is that everyone is there the first 2 weeks, 3 weeks, 4 weeks, which is a beautiful thing. Yeah. But then the headlines start to fade and there is no more support. And what we know from the nervous system is oftentimes we need emotional support 4, 5, 6 months to a year, sometimes a lifetime in the aftermath of trauma. So we really chose Asheville with the idea and this kind of tagline that headlines fade, but community care doesn't have to. So we wanted to acknowledge the toll and the hard work of rebuilding for the nurses there.
Because even when we were there, it was almost a year after the hurricanes have happened.
Yeah.
And we could see the damage. And then once we were talking to members of the community, we could feel it, or at least I could.
Yeah.
And
absolutely.
even like some of the people, like nobody's done this. Nobody came. Even in those first 2 weeks, they didn't have any support and get too into it, but it was just beautiful and powerful. And, you know, they were in the mountains. Mountains don't get hurricanes, and they weren't prepared. And I think that was another maybe reason why it had more of lasting effects within that community.
Yeah, I definitely agree with that. I mean, here in Florida, you know, we have our generators, we have our sandbags, we are ready, we have our hurricane kits, you know, but yes, and there wasn't enough time to evacuate. And even when you are considering evacuation is a privilege. Some people do not have a vehicle, they don't have the money, you know, they don't have the capacity to leave their home. And many people in small towns, I mean, they don't want to leave. That is their safe place. Choosing to evacuate is a huge emotional decision as well.
So once we arrived in Asheville, at least for me, like everything became very real, very quick. And one of the most powerful parts witnessing before we even got to the outreach part of the trip was just seeing how quickly the nurses from all over the country became a team in that house, supporting the community and supporting each other without hesitation, and just getting right down the nitty-gritties. What do you need? Where can I help? It was so beautiful to see. And I'm curious if there's, for each of you, if you could share a moment from the trip that really stayed with you. I know there's so many, but
yes, there were so many. And I love how you highlighted that just nurses are natural. We're natural givers. We are natural helpers. We jump in when we see our coworkers struggling, like we don't run the other way. And so I think that was something that I was even not surprised by, because it's who we are, like deep in our core. But it's just always so encouraging, not only with this trip, but also with when we were down in Punta Gorda last year or 2 years ago now, that just the heart that these nurses have for others, and just how beautiful it is to see them using their gifts, using their talents, using their individual makeup that is so beautiful and so special and that has so much to give, but just seeing them using those gifts and not just falling in line and like, oh, I'm just here to check a box or things like that. And I think that that's what made both of these trips really special, was that these nurses were here because they wanted to be here, not because they felt like pressured, not because they were like, well, I need to do an outreach trip. I mean, for my BSN or something like
Right. No,
it was like really, really cool. And I do think it's important too, just kind of going back a little to when we were talking about the origin story, about how important it is for the receivers to receive the care. It was just on my heart so much to go down, and especially having that personal connection with Tara too.
Yeah.
I see my friends hurting and I want to do something about it. But I also feel like it's so important to recognize Tara and the hospitals that we connected with, the community centers that we connected with, to how much strength and courage it takes to accept the help. Because Tara easily could have been like, no, we're good. Stay away.
Absolutely.
So I do think that that's so important. And then just as an encouragement to the nurses listening, that it's so much courage and so much strength that it shows when you not only ask for help, but you also receive it as well. So I did just want to kind of put a little caveat to that.
I think that's so important to say, because I know, at least for me, I have a hard time asking for help. And, on and off the bedside. And it is, I know why, but I think it is very, special when you can open your heart into receiving help that's there. For nurses who want to get involved, what are some ways that they can support Rekindled Nurse and Debriefing the Front Lines?
For Debriefing the Front Lines, one of the most helpful ways to support us is honestly by sharing on and off socials and bringing awareness to debriefing as a resource for nurses. Again, normalizing the need for support, spreading the message that alone is no longer enough. So awareness building is huge for grassroots nonprofits. I'm sure Courtney feels the same way.
I cannot agree more. I mean, the connections are beautiful. The monetized donations, the physical donations, all of those things are so special. But I totally agree that just the awareness of, hey, there's a nonprofit that's like an hour away from you and they're doing local events, or like, hey, if you are grieving or you're going through something, there's an incredible nonprofit you just have to log onto your computer and they have scholarships and things like that. So just the sharing, yes, and I agree, like on social media, just in your community, because even if you're not physically a part of either of our organizations or maybe another one, just knowing that there are people out there that are fighting for you, that they are supporting you, that they are encouraging you from afar can light up your heart too. So even just knowing that, like, hey, I know you might not be ready for this right now, but when you are, there's these two really cool organizations that are open arms ready for you when you are. So just the awareness piece is huge. So I totally agree with that.
I also know that there's a nurse that's probably listening that feels that call to serve, but is afraid that they don't have enough to give. Is there anything that you both would say to that?
We all have so much to give. We have so much inside of us, inside of our hearts. And even we saw that firsthand in both of our trips, and even I'm sure across the board of what other people, when you're working with your coworkers, but leaning into what you are uniquely gifted at. And we all have those things. And as we lean into those things and as we lean into those gifts, it's just so innate in us to give, to step out, to support. And it doesn't have to be this grand, like, I'm going on an outreach trip in 2027. And it doesn't have to be that at all. It can just be so simple as when you're working with your coworker and they have to go pump. I'm a nursing mom, and it was very very challenging to, and so just like there was 2 coworkers that I knew every time that they were there, I would have the freedom to say, hey, I got to go pump. Can you watch my people for 15 minutes? And so just simple acts like that of just opening up your heart and just being able to remove the blinders for a moment and seeing your other people. And you'll be so surprised of the incredible gifts that you have when you just allow your heart to open up to those types of things too.
Tara, did you have anything to add on to that?
Just to echo Courtney's statement in that, it doesn't have to be big. It doesn't have to be grand.
The little things are the big things.
Yes, little things are big things, small gestures, because it's not really happening because of how busy we are as nurses and because all of the factors that we're not going to list, just like the healthcare system in general, there isn't time, there isn't space built in to our day for caring for one another. Mm-hmm. I think that's something that we are trying to kind of champion and pioneer forward, that these small things, that acknowledgement is a gift in itself.
Yeah. Yeah.
Right.
And even just doing that for yourself too.
Yes.
We girl in our peer group that I just was reminded of. One of the things she wanted to do is she wanted to start putting herself first, and not in a selfish way. And that's not selfish to put yourself first and your needs. But her thing is she has this hot pink Stanley, and she's like, that's the first thing I do. I walk onto my unit and that's what I'm doing for myself. And I know that if I protect that myself time, I'm going to the water fountain, I'm filling up my hot pink Stanley, and I'm ready to take on the day. So even just things like that, just so simple, but just honoring your heart too, and supporting what you need to do that energy exchange that Tara talked about. Yeah. Like we're giving out so much, it's okay to put back into your heart too. Yeah.
So as we wrap up, I just wanted to say how incredibly grateful I am for the both of you, not just for leading this outreach, but for your compassion and for your leadership and for creating these safe spaces where nurses can heal and where we can serve and lead with purpose.
Yeah.
Because this trip was such a powerful reminder that nurses are organizers, we're advocates, and we're community leaders. And I'm just in awe of both of you, and I'm so honored to call you my friends.
Thank you so much, Mel. We are receiving that gratitude and your beautiful energy, and we are sending it back. And with that, Debriefing the Front Lines and Rekindled Nurse would like to thank the 171 financial donors who made this trip possible, as well as the Amazon donors who donated gifts for the care packages for the 416 nurses. And then we would also like to thank our corporate sponsors, Nurse.org, Stink Balm, Clove, Bubbler, Carrie Type Company, Fabletics, Awake Chocolate, Crumble Cookie, Mel's Crafty Corner, Namaste in Nature, Crystal Lee Photography, Trader Joe's, Elements, Homegrown Homemade, and Georgie for all your in-kind donations. Thank you for making all of this possible.
Oh, we couldn't have done it without you. Thank you so much for your sacrifice and just for your love and seeing nurses and taking the bold step of saying, I'm in. Let's do this.
I love that. I love it. Yes. Amplifying all the thank yous, all the gratitude, because we are all in this together. Mm-hmm. Alone is no longer enough. I say this a lot. We're all in this together. You're the High School Musical.
Your millennial is showing.
And to everyone listening, if this episode stirred something in you, I encourage you to learn more about Rekindled Nurse and Debriefing the Front Lines. Support nurse-led organizations, and remember that making an impact doesn't require perfection, just heart. And I want to thank you all so much for listening today. If you liked this episode, make sure to give us a review and comment down below. Tell us how your day was. And we'll see you next time.
Thanks for joining Nurse Converse, brought to you by Nurse.org. Help us grow by leaving a 5-star rating and review on your favorite podcast platform. Nurse.org supports nurses with career and education tips, life advice, and breaking news. Thank you for all you do and for being you.